In this bulletin, Tuma keeps guards up. Police remind about curfew rules. And Afghan chaos continues.
From the studios of FBC Suva, Atera Lendua.
Good afternoon, Fiji. Attorney General Ayaz Said Qayyum has today told Parliament that the Fijian government will not make any contribution of grant funding to the University of the South Pacific. Said Qayyum has labelled the appointment of Professor Paul Alwalia as the Vice-Chancellor of USP illegal. He adds, given the gravity of the allegations of serious mismanagement against Alwalia, no funding will be given to USP until such time when a new VC is appointed. Said Qayyum says they also want all the alleged breaches against the professor to be investigated further independently.
Fiji does not accept Alwalia as the Vice-Chancellor and will not provide any funding or assistance to USP for as long as he remains the supposed Vice-Chancellor.
No confirmed case of COVID-19 will not mean letting their guard down for over 1,000 of the population on Tuma Island. District Officer Vatia Vasudha says strict protocols have been imposed while offloading of cargoes at the Oinafa wharf to ensure none of the islanders come into contact with any crew members. He says they've learned from a number of incidents in the last few months where a few cases were confirmed from some islands as people came into contact with the crew members. Vasudha adds all essentials transferred from the cargo ship needs to be tightly sealed as thorough fumigation will be carried out before distribution.
We mobilize with our chiefs and the Lotu and come up with a plan on how best we can maintain that status for them as COVID-free.
Officers will continue to strictly enforce movement during curfew hours. Police are urging people not to abuse the trust given to them if they have been issued a curfew pass. It adds that people can expect to spend a few more minutes at these checkpoints as officers will be conducting thorough verification before movement will be allowed. Police have made it clear that any breach or misuse of the passes will be dealt with accordingly. The COVID-19 pandemic has further widened inequality gaps. The second wave of the pandemic escalated existing challenges further for Fijians residing in informal settlements when jobs were lost. For many of the residents, life now is a matter of survival. Residents say that government assistance and the good heart of others is a lifeline for many of these families.
Those who are unemployed suffers the most, but when government assistance came, majority of the families have benefited. We are grateful as we are surviving.
Government has further extended the expiry dates of permits, licenses, certificates and registrations as contained in the Land Transport COVID-19 Response Amendment No. 2 Regulations 2021. Minister for Transport Fayaz Koya explains that initially any permit, license, certificate or registration that expired or was due for renewal on or after April 19th was given until today. However, the date has now been further extended to October 19, 2021. Koya says that from today, those whose permit, license, certificate or registration have expired since the April 19, 2021 have now until October 19, 2021 to renew. He says the extension is not applicable to permits, licenses, certificates and registrations that is being processed for cancellation by the LTA. As evacuations gathered pace in Afghanistan, people share their stories about how they got out through the chaos at Kabul airport. Most of them said they feared for the lives of their loved ones left behind. And to our latest COVID-19 update for today. Fiji recorded 653 new COVID-19 infections for the period ending at 8 a.m. yesterday. 462 cases are from the Western Division and 191 from the Central. The Health Ministry also recorded 8 new COVID-19 deaths for the period of August 14th to the 18th. 5 deaths were from the Central Division and 3 from the Western. Fiji has recorded 41,760 cases since April this year. There are now 21,304 active cases in isolation, with 19,883 recoveries in total. The COVID-19 death toll now stands at 413. The vaccination campaign also continues around the country. As of yesterday, 539,451, or 92% of the population, have received their first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine. 223,967, or 38.2%, have received their second dose. The 5 most vaccinated areas include Ba, Rewa, Nantongai, and Naitasiri, which are now 100% first jab. Next is Nandi. Up ahead, Mangala turns down contract. And Krishna stars in season opener. Stay with us. Welcome back. National Olympic Sevens gold medalist Israeli Mangala has turned down a contract to play for French club Bayonne. Speaking to the media following his clearance from quarantine in Lambasa yesterday, Mangala says before he was offered the contract, he had plans to be part of the Sevens team to the World Cup next year. Mangala was reported to have signed for Bayonne prior to the Tokyo Olympic Games. He says he is being drafted to the Fijian side by Fiji Rugby Union to prepare for next year's Sevens World Cup to be held in Cape Town, South Africa. The youngster was approached by the French club after he was introduced to the world at the Oceania Sevens in Australia in June. Fiji-born former All Blacks Sevens winger Joe Rawowo also plays for Bayonne. Roy Krishna's ATK Mohan Bagan began its AFC Cup campaign in style as it cruised to a commanding 2-0 win over Bengaluru FC last night. And just as last season, Krishna was back scoring for his club, also becoming the first Fijian to ever feature and score in the AFC Cup. Here are the goals. Fiji swimmer Cheyenne Roba says the availability of training facilities during this pandemic is something that is of a concern for many local swimmers in Fiji. Roba says this has been one of the setbacks during her preparation for the Olympic Games, and she hopes that they get back into the pool. The 26-year-old was fortunate enough to train and compete in Australia last month.
Having access to a pool or like facilities, you know, it's not like any other sport where you can just use the land and do some running or some throwing. You actually need the water, you need the pool. You know, and we could do it in the ocean and you can get aerobic work in, but it's not the same.
Cloudy periods with brief showers over the southeastern parts and the interior of the larger islands. That's FBC News now. Join us again for our 1-hour major bulletin at 7 p.m. And be sure to download the FBC app to access the latest in news, sports, and live radio broadcasts from any of our 6 FBC radio stations. You stay safe and good afternoon.